Guys. Well, running a little bit late, but that is par for the course, I think. And set up some software. I'm seeing myself. I'm noticing I look like I'm dressed for a visit to the North Pole. It's actually really cold here in Colorado, even though it's May. That's pretty typical. Anyway, welcome. Welcome. We're going to talk about Ceres today, the asteroid series. And so I've done a bunch of Ceres talks on YouTube before. So if this topic is interesting to you, you should check those out. I'm Notha Perkins of Electroastrology. And so, of course, I'm teaching you how to use these astrological archetypes as inquiry into your own experience. And we are looking right now with Ceres being in the sign of Pisces. Ceres is also meeting with the North Node and Saturn in the next few days. So it's some pretty big energy for Ceres. So I talked a little bit about this in the weekly forecast, the path ahead, but I want to take a different angle today. So the angle that I want to really talk about is the mother. So stay with me here. Take a minute as we're talking. As always, take some deep breaths into your center of your body, into your nervous system. Get a sense of what it feels like in there. Remember that your nervous system is totally connected to your mother's nervous system, because that is who we were grown in. We were swimming in those chemicals for our first almost 10 months here in utero. So everything that was impacting your mom's nervous system, the things that were stressing her out, any rejection or abandonment that she felt, any fear or anxiety about the pregnancy or about her life, as well as any feelings of love and expectation and nurturance. So we train our nervous systems, rather get trained as we are growing. And that becomes the baseline for our nervous system. Ceres, the asteroid, is about the physical mother. So we look at the moon as the emotional mother, but Ceres is the physical mother. And one of the things that I find so fascinating when we look at the mythology of Ceres, and we have to kind of intuit some of our own stuff into these myths, because who really knows? But my sense always with Ceres, she's the goddess of the land, of the cultivated land. And so she had control over everything blooming and growing and thriving. And she had a daughter named Persephone. And as all daughters do, as all children do, they have to separate from their mother eventually. And that can be really hard, I think, for both mother and child. But imagine yourself now as the mother, and you're the one that has held this child, that has carried this child, that has nurtured and really taught this child how to be in the world. And this child starts to move away very quickly, right? I mean, babies are merged with their mother. We assume that our mother is just an extension of us for, I don't know, the first 6 months. And then it becomes this progression where we're moving out away from our mother. We're running away. We are trying to see the world separately from our mother. So it's this whole multi-year process. But what happens is eventually there's this thing, this disconnect. And it's so nuanced and it's so intricate. So go back to your own nervous system and get a sense of what it feels like right now as we're talking. And how does your nervous system feel normally? And now look at your mother's nervous system, like how she is now or how she was when she was alive, if she's not here any longer. And what was that like? And then see whether you can correlate some similarities between your own nervous system and her nervous system, right? And then think about the separation that you have done over the years of differentiating, like, I'm not her, I am not in her system, I am in my own system. In order to do that, we have to move away. We have to leave. So back to the mythology of Ceres. She was this goddess. So she was very, very powerful. And I think that there's something about the nature of a goddess where goddesses expect to be met. They expect to get what they want. And if they don't get what they want, they have immense power and control to shift circumstances to get what they want. So here comes Pluto, the lord of the underworld, and he kidnaps Persephone, her daughter. But as I raised some questions in my Ceres talks, like, did he really kidnap her, or did she wish to go? Pluto is part of us that is our inner sorcerer, that part that wants to go deep, that wants to self-explore, that wants to know ourselves on a very, very deep level, and especially in a taboo level where we start talking about sexuality and the things that are not so talked about, things that we wouldn't necessarily talk about or even learn from our mothers, because that's a very separate energy, isn't it? Than that deeper, darker part of us that has drives, that has needs, that is wanting to feel, wanting the intensity, wanting the intimacy that's really different than that kind of intensity and intimacy that we have with our mother. So Pluto comes along and kidnaps her daughter. Did her daughter go willingly? Because if you think about your own self around age 18, you probably went very willingly off to explore yourself and explore your darker nature. And, darker doesn't have to mean bad. Darker just means deeper and more intricate. And we know that with our mothers, it is a certain kind of dynamic, isn't it, that we have with them, where we want to be good and we want to do what our mother says. And there is an expectation, as with all goddesses, that they are obeyed. So we think about Ceres in the astrology chart. And you can look at your own Ceres for some really good info in terms of what was it that I needed physically, right? And who was in control of meeting my physical needs? Well, my mother. And how was she at that? Did she listen to me? Did she know what it was that I wanted? Did she, was she able to do that for me, right? And hold on, I'm just looking at some settings here. I want to make sure that this is live. I think it is. All right, so think for a minute about that question. How did your mother relate to your body? What did she think that your body needed? Now, I have raised children of my own, and so I have been able to watch this on a really personal level. And of course, I was raised by a mother. And so one of the things that I have noticed, and I'll just share my own experience of mothering, and here's an example, is that, I feel like, being a Taurus, right? Physical comfort is very important to me. Being warm, being cozy. So that was one of my big things with my kids always, is I wanted them to be warm and cozy. And so I think that I was always putting too many clothes on them. And I was always trying to prepare them for cold weather and, make sure that they were warm enough. And in hindsight, what I remember is that neither of my kids were that interested in being warm. It wasn't part of what was important to them. They were also very specific about how they wanted to eat, the foods that they would and would not eat, the kind of clothing that they would and would not wear. And, when we're talking about Ceres as a archetype that teaches us about our own body and our own physical needs, but in order to get to those answers, we kind of have to go through the gate of our mother, because our mother is the one that is initially determining what our body needs, even though it's not always accurate. So what we're looking at with Ceres in the sign of Pisces right now is this job that we all have if we want to be more self-aware, if we want to understand our own physical nature better, and we want to meet our own needs in a better way. We have to go deeper. For one thing, we have to start paying attention to the intuitive hits that we get from our own bodies, right? I have a headache. Why do I have a headache? Oh, I think that it's because I've been feeling all of this mental stress. Oh, okay. Oh, my shoulder is hurting. Just had a client this morning. She talks about her shoulder hurting as a pretty predictable reaction to a stress that goes on in her life. So we're all kind of using that, right? Like it's a tool that's here for us if we're paying attention. But again, we have to get through that gatekeeper of our mother and how our mother related to us, related to our own bodies. So we look again at the mythology of Ceres. And what did Ceres do when her daughter Persephone wanted to move away and wanted to do something different? She wanted to discover her own nature. Ceres got really upset. She was sad. She was grief stricken. She was angry, right? She went through all of these emotions, essentially wanting to get her way. So think about that, right? As we look at Ceres as an archetype along with the mother, and we know that Ceres in the sky is with the North Node. Okay, so that's evolution, right? And the South Node in Virgo is like doing things to be good. So the questions that I want to raise today, really, for you as you're listening, is like, what are the things that relate to your own physicality, your own body, your own nurturance, your own self-care, your own desire to discover your deeper, darker nature? What are the things that you ignore or that you brush away or you compartmentalize in trade for being good, for not wanting to upset your mom, right? And at this point we're all adults, so of course we are autonomous from our mothers, but still this is a huge we're still so deeply connected to the way that we were mothered, right? And to what we were taught about our own body. So we might move to a place where we're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to meet this person's needs. I don't want to do this. And our bodies are like, great, I will alert you when you're doing this, or I will alert you to when there's a potential that you might break your own boundaries. And then we run smack up against this not wanting to get in trouble, right? Imagine a time when you were younger where you didn't want to wear your coat, or you didn't want to eat the food that your mother was feeding you, or the way that she was trying to dress you, and you said no and you got in trouble. And so those things kind of crystallized within us, and they hang around until we're adults, right? Still here like, oh, wow, I'm still reacting to this situation as if I was a child. And so with Ceres conjunct the North Node as it is right now, we're looking at saying, if we're going to evolve, if we're going to take a deeper sense of responsibility for our own physical care, our own nurturing, acknowledging what our bodies actually really need, not so much what our mothers thought our bodies needed, but what our bodies really need, then we have to let go of that desire to be good and to not upset our moms, not make her sad or whatever. And like I said, this could just be very metaphorical, right? Very few of us are still, wanting to eat our vegetables to make our moms happy, right? But these conditionings become so crystallized that we act them out on autopilot. So right now, tuning in with your physical body and taking some deep breaths and just noticing what it is that you're feeling in your body. And think back to how much power your mother really had over the way that you related to your body. So think about this. And I'll pose this in two different ways. It's like, was your mother like this, or are you like this as a mother, like the helicopter mother? It's all over the child all the time. What are you doing? Where are you going? Eat that, don't eat that. Wear that, don't wear that. Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be safe? And if that was your experience as a child or as a mother, think about the impact of that on your own nervous system or on that of your child. and think about the anxiety that that causes. There's sort of always an inner like anxiety that's happening, right? And think about how we carry that into adulthood and how that anxiety can inform us all the time. It lives in our nervous system. And we're looking to take back our power, right? We're looking to escape, right? We're like, where's Pluto? Take me out of here. And so those are your deeper inquiry questions. Another example is if you had a mother that was always concerned about her weight or concerned about yours, trying to micromanage or control what you ate, having a ton of criticism about your body, about how you eat, about what you eat. You might have had a mother or been a mother that was really concerned about sugar, too much sugar, got to eat healthy, got to exercise, or think about having a mother, being a mother that's really intent on your kids playing sports, always exercising, being outside, or concerned about screens. Like, just giving you these examples. Nothing is good or bad, but they are gateways into understanding some of how we hold on to these things, and then they become a part of our like physiological responses to stress. So as Ceres is meeting with the North Node, we are looking at this idea of evolving. How do I take better care of myself? We have to go back into understanding what it was like for us when we were younger, and understanding that Ceres as a goddess, our mothers as the goddesses of our childhood, were so incredibly powerful. And eventually, Ceres convinced Jupiter to let her have Persephone back at the time, because she was threatening to kill the plants. She was, allowing the humans to go into starvation because she was so upset about the loss of her daughter. So I'm using this as an analogy to just say, like, this is not easy stuff. This is stuff that really impacts us on a very deep level for many, many years. It lives in our body. Our bodies will always have a response of like wanting to not upset the mother or the conditioning or what have you. And so we also don't learn how to read our own bodies and our own responses, because we have to look to this mother figure. What does she want? What is she going to say? What is she going to get mad at me if I don't follow her rules? And not every mother, some mothers are a little bit better at that. They are better at allowing their kids to do their own thing, even if that's not what the mother feels is best. It's like, oh, you don't want to wear a coat and it's snowing? Okay, well, go be cold. But this is essentially just a way to get you, as you're listening, to think a little bit deeper about your physical symptoms as they are right now, things that come into your the way that your body responds to stress, to difficult conversations, to boundaries that you have to set, and even to things like the food that you eat, because it's always a bigger picture. And there's always something that is so interesting about getting a little bit deeper and understanding things from different angles. It's not just about, oh, my shoulder hurts. It's like, oh, my shoulder hurts a lot. Why? What usually happens before my shoulder starts to hurt? Okay, interesting. And I'm noticing this with my clients and, with everybody, is that there is a lot of mother stuff coming up in the field. Ceres is going to meet within the next week the planet Saturn. And Saturn is about our limitations and our boundaries, but it also speaks to regaining a sense of authority and taking more control of our physical body, our physical experience. I've been talking all week about using the body as an oracle and allowing your body to tell you more about what's really going on. Anything from tender spots to weird reaction to a food, even whether your energy is high or not. Think about that. If you're inspecting everything through the lens of curiosity, like, what is this here to show me? What is this here to teach me? There's so much to learn. And I think that in the process of that, there can be a deepening into the understanding your own mother and your relationship with her, not because you're still trying to separate, or maybe you are, but just understanding this is my lineage. This is where I've come from. This is the human's body that I was grown in. And I want to understand it so that if there's any dysfunction still happening for me as an adult, I can change it. We can change a lot simply by putting our attention on it, because our attention allows different kinds of answers to arise and different understandings to show up. And that is all about evolution. And we are evolving so quickly right now, if we wish. Not everybody, a lot of people are still sleeping their way through their experience, and that's okay. But there is something about awakening to the messages of your body by understanding not just what is happening in the present, but by what has come before. How did your mother teach you to relate to your own body? And what of those teachings are you ready to discard? I no longer need that. I'm decluttering. And what new, more spiritual, more valuable teachings are coming online so that you can mother yourself differently? Mothering is always a multifaceted thing, right? We're learning how to mother ourselves the way that we need it, the way that is the most supportive to us. And sometimes we have to really learn what that is. So I will leave you with that. All right. Hope this is helpful. Talk to you soon.